Welcome in to the TiaraChanell Podcast. Yes, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. I hope all of you are doing so amazing. Whoever is on the other side of this camera, I want you to know that you are loved, you are seen, you are heard, and you are cared for by God. Listen, this is once again the TiaraChanell Podcast, where we seek to transform the lives and renew the minds of all believers through Christ Jesus. And I'm just happy to be here with you guys today. Y'all know how I am. I kind of just get right into the message. I really don't know how to just go slowly into the message. I'm kind of not the best at that. Other people are way better than I am at that. But today's message, the title is When God Says Go. When God Says Go. So I want to tell you guys about a time where I didn't leave when God told me to. And y'all want to pray for me because yes, I totally did not leave when God specifically told me to. So I'm just going to start from the beginning, okay? But basically, I was attending this church, and there's many of times when I was disobedient, if I'm being honest with you, but I'm just gonna go straight with this one. So, I was attending this church, and while I was attending this church, I heard the voice of God tell me to leave. And here's the thing though, when I first started going to the church, I fit in really well. Primarily, I feel like I kind of forced myself to fit in, if you will, but I feel like I fit in really well. Like, it worked for a season, for a time, it worked so well. Like, I was so into the life and the system of that church. Like, I was like a vital part almost. I was volunteering in every department you could volunteer in. Seriously, I was there. I was making connections. I was like doing all the things. And it was going so well. And it was going so well that they were going to ordain me to be a pastor at that specific church. And I was so excited because really that was like my dream, was to be a pastor. However, I realized that there was just a feeling on the inside of me that was like, this is not who you are, I feel like I just knew that God was telling me to leave. And I didn't leave. I decided to stay. What happened though is that I did talk to my pastor about how I was feeling. And unfortunately, my pastor decided to help me to doubt instead of discern. So, get you a friend that will help you to discern, not doubt, right? Get you a friend that helps you to navigate what God is telling you to do and not doubting, what they think God is telling you to do, or not helping you to doubt what they think God is telling you to do. Like, for example, sometimes they plant seeds. Like, him in that particular time, he made me feel like I was tripping, basically. For lack of better words, he made me feel like I was tripping. And he was basically like, God's not telling you that, basically, right? And so it didn't even help me to discern, didn't say, hey, I'll fast with you, I'll pray with you on it, or, are you feeling like this? Or probing questions to see where the problem may lie, or just nothing. Like, it was just straight up, yeah, that ain't God, no. And so once again, get you a friend that will help you to discern, not a friend that will help you to doubt. And so at this time, I really believed that he was telling me to leave, but I listened to my pastor instead. I did not listen to the voice of God. And I just chopped it up as I was tripping, honestly. And so I didn't leave. I stayed. And I stayed for a whole nother year. And when I did that, unfortunately, I became so burnt out and I became so burdened and I became so just like I couldn't take it anymore. And I left in just like a horrific way. I basically called and was just like, listen, I can't do this anymore. And I've got to go. Like, and the worst part is that they were expecting me to shepherd and lead a specific department like a few days later, I think, or a few weeks later or something like that. It was like super close to when I was supposed to show up and show out for this church like I always do. And unfortunately, because I did not listen to God's voice in a previous season, it affected how I showed up in that next season. And it affected my relationships there. It affected how my reputation ended up being there, all because I did not listen to God. And it just made everything so much worse. And so this podcast may not even honestly be that long, but it's literally just saying, like, when God tells you to leave a specific situation, an environment, a people group, a person, a habit, or whatever, like, it's because he can see what's up ahead. And a lot of times what's up ahead, if you don't leave, you are going to cause yourself more heartache, more pain, more disappointment, more all those things that God was trying to prevent you from having to experience, all because and centered around the fact that you did not listen to him the first time he told you to leave. Sometimes it's a waste of time. Sometimes that person is about to stab you in the back, right? Sometimes, like, all type of things can be the reason why he's trying to tell you to leave in that particular moment. And so I'm just here to kind of let you know, like, when God tells you to leave a thing or a person or something, like, listen. You know what I'm saying? Just, like, do your best to listen and leave. When God says go, you gotta go. It was crazy because what God showed me is that, you know, sometimes people don't want you to leave them, right? Because they are depending on you and your energy and whatever the case is. Like, it could be really, really hard to leave a space that God is telling you to leave, that you have become so accustomed to and that you have become so connected with. You know, sometimes it's people, right, that you love. Sometimes you've known them for a long time. Like, sometimes, you know, it's environments. It's like your church family. Like, it can be, you know, very difficult to leave when God is telling you to leave, especially when you have formed your life around that specific person or those people for so long. And even habits and mindsets and things of that nature. But when I was going through this phase in my life, if you will, this season of my life, you know, I remember waking up one day and the song was on my spirit. It was the song Don't Leave Me by Blackstreet. And, you know, the song, don't leave me, girl. Stay right here with me forever. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So that song was on my spirit, and I felt like, you know, it was just basically just like, some people don't want you to leave the level that they're at, right? Some people don't want you to leave. Like, they want you to stay where they are forever. But they have no intentions to ever change. They have no intentions to ever be better for you. They have no intentions to treat you well and to treat you properly and to treat you the way that you are supposed to be treated. But they want you to stay the same forever. They want you to stay where they are forever. But you can't, because you are God's instrument. You are God's special prize, right? And, you know, so it's important that when God is telling you to go, we actually go. Because some people are just honestly kind of selfish in that way. Or maybe it's their trauma or whatever the case is. But regardless, you know, they will cause you to stay with them forever on a level that you have outgrown, on a level that you are too big for now. And we have to know and be able to discern when it's that season for us to pack our bags and to get on. Okay? Because if not, you may get stuck on their level, for real. And what God showed me is a lot of times, some relationships, as we always hear, are, a season, a reason, or a lifetime, right? And, some people are only there for a specific season, a specific reason. And you have the capacity to outgrow these circumstances and outgrow. Let me tell you something. If you are doing the work and the people around you are not doing their internal work and shifting and changing and growing and healing and becoming and transforming, if you are the only one doing that, you are going to outgrow them. I mean, it just is what it is. You are literally going to outgrow that space and that connection at some point or another, because they're not doing the work and you are. And so you're growing, you're healing, you're transforming, you're renewing, and they are staying the same because they're not doing any of those things. And so eventually you'll find yourself in a place where you have outgrown them. And that's okay. It hurts. And it's definitely not easy, especially, sometimes we're talking about people who we are in love with, right? Like people you thought you were going to marry and people you thought you were going to have kids with, and just all of these different things that, but at the end of the day, you can't stay on their level forever. If they're not willing to grow, evolve, and change with you, then you have no choice but to move on at some point, especially when you feel like the Lord is telling you to go. And that's really the whole point of this message, is when God says go, I need you to pack up your bags and go. When God says go, I need you to not stay around for another second. I need you to go. And I know sometimes it's not the best timing in your mind, right? But what you don't realize is that sometimes it's the best timing in God's point of view, because it may look like, oh, but they need me, right? If I don't come in today, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, if I don't do what they need me to do, then it's not the right timing because they need me. I have to stay because I promised them I would do this and I promised them. But guess what? You need you. We do that a lot. A lot of times we be talking about how somebody else needs us, but you need you. Okay? Especially if that person is dragging you down. Especially if that person is sucking you dry. Especially if that person is not reciprocating the love that you're giving out, and you're just over there basically getting all of your energy drained, and you talking about they need me. You need you. You need you to show up for yourself. You need you to pump yourself up with the love that you require and that you deserve. You need you. So sometimes we're so constantly wrapped up in the fact that these people might need you, or they've become some form of dependent on you, but you're not even recognizing that it's time for you to show up for yourself. And so once again, when God says go, I need you to pack up your bags and I need you to go. Okay, whichever way that looks like. Because a lot of times what I've come to realize is that when God is telling you to go, it's because there is something up ahead. And if you don't go when he tells you to, you're going to cause yourself a lot more heartache, a lot more trauma, a lot more disappointment than you really have had, would have had to have gone through had you have just left when God told you to. And don't get me wrong, I know it's hard. I do. But the thing is that sometimes in order to go, you have to disappoint the people that sometimes you love the most. And here's the thing, if God is telling you to go, they probably are already disappointing you. So, sometimes you have to kind of I found myself when I was at this church, I found myself people pleasing. I found myself just wanting them to like me, just wanting to fit in. And so I would act and behave in ways that led to them liking me. Right? And I would just do anything to people please. I would do anything to show up for them, even though they weren't showing up for me. Right? I was doing anything to make them happy, even though I wasn't happy. And, it got so bad to a point where I just, like, I couldn't take it anymore. I got, like, so burnt out and just had to, like, even though God had already told me, see, if I had listened a year before, I wouldn't have left that way. I wouldn't have gotten burnt out like that. But what I've come to realize is that sometimes when you're putting up those boundaries and you are needing to leave a space and you're needing to walk away, sometimes you have to disappoint the person that you're walking away from. Sometimes you're not going to be able to leave in this perfect manner. And I know that that's not what a lot of people like myself want to do. Like, it's probably one of the scariest things, especially if you're like a people pleaser or you're someone that just really enjoys making people happy, even if it comes at your own expense. The last thing you want to do is not show up for them or disappoint them in any capacity. Sometimes you do have to disappoint them in order to take care of yourself, in order to make yourself happy. And that's not selfish. Sometimes that's just like your boundary. And I'm really more so talking about relationships that are not reciprocal, that you're being drained and you're not getting anything back, right? Or simply put, if God is telling you to leave and he's like, look, it's time to go. This season is up. It's over, and it's time to move on. It's time to let that go and move on, because we're going into a new season. I'm about to do a new thing, and now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Type of energy. And, it's hard. It's really, really hard, because you're also really attached to those people and to those environments and to those habits and to those mindsets. But at the end of the day, God knows that they're never going to show up for you. He knows that they're never going to come through the way that you need them to. And they're not changing. They're not growing. They're not evolving. They're not healing. They're not transforming. They're not becoming. And you are. And so it's a natural process of evolving into the bigger and better you, and the version of you that no longer tolerates that type of behavior. And so with that being the case, sometimes you have to like kind of shatter your pretty little image. Sometimes that's what you have to do. Like, I found myself having to shatter that image where it's like, oh yeah, Tiara always comes through. Tiara always does this. She always does that. She'll be here 100%, no matter if we're not giving back to her or not. Right? Like, sometimes it's like, I had to shatter that image. I had to be like, you know what? Actually, I'm not happy. Okay? Actually, I don't like this. I don't like that. Actually, I'm done people pleasing. I'm done not getting what I deserve in this relationship. It could be friendship, whatever it is. And I had to really like shatter that pretty little image that I had, built up for so long. And on the back of me being burnt out, not getting what I was deserving, not getting what I deserved, not being truly happy, not being fulfilled. And I just kept getting the short end of the stick, because I was trying so hard to uphold this image that I was happy because I just wanted you to be happy, right? And so, sometimes you do have to shatter that pretty little image and disappoint some people so that you can go to the next stage of your life. I mean, that's just the truth. It's the hard truth. Sometimes you have to be like, you know what? Actually, I'm not happy. I can't do this. I know that it disappoints you, but I have to show up for me. And that's just kind of what it is. So, I found myself having to do that. And what I realized is that it's so much easier, it's so much better to just be authentically yourself. Like, it's so much better. I spent so much time of my life making everybody else happy just for me to be so unhappy. And I finally got to the point where I decided that I was going to choose me. I decided that I was going to make myself happy. And people will call that selfish, but I call it boundaries, because I still take care of you, but I take care of me too. And I take care of me, honestly, I take care of me first, because I can't take care of you well and steward you well if I'm not stewarding and taking care of myself well. And so if I'm not happy, it's just not easy for me to be able to make you happy. And so yes, I have a boundary of making sure that I don't put you before I put myself. Because when I do that, I've done it before. I've had no boundaries to do that. And when I've done that, I find myself extremely burnt out and unhappy while you're happy. You have all the cards, all the good stuff, and I'm over there with the short end of the stick. So it's simply just a boundary, and just know that it's okay to put those kind of boundaries up and to say, you know what, I'm not going to allow this type of behavior in my life, because I have to make sure that I'm good so that you can be good, right? And people who don't respect your boundaries don't deserve really to be in your space anyway, if you ask me. The Bible says to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And that's been interpreted a lot of different ways, but personally, I believe that it's like, if you don't even love you right, how are you going to love someone else right? Right? So how do you love you? Because a lot of times that's gonna be an indication of how you're gonna turn around and love someone else. And so a lot of times we think that if I love them right, then I'll get that love back from them. But that's really kind of like a form of validation seeking, and like you're not really giving yourself the love that you truly deserve, but then looking for it from somebody else. It just doesn't really make any sense. Give yourself what you need, and then out of that overflow, give it to the next person, right? So what I've come to realize is that during these season shifts, if you will, you will find yourself going to the next level, and there's always a drop off of people, mindsets, habits, relationships, environments that tend to fall off during that season shift. And a lot of times it's because, simply put, you're just no longer that version of yourself that you were when you and that person, or you and that whatever it is, that habit connected. Sometimes we are literally in a trauma bond with people, and it's just like, once you heal, you and that person don't have anything else in common, So I think that it's okay to release and let go. So that, my friends, has been another episode of the TiaraChanell Podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I hope it spoke to you, whoever this message was for. And I just pray that you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.